What is art, and who gets to decide? That's a question I've been asking myself since I was around 18 years old, and I asked a professor in one of my college classes. And the answer he gave me was wholly unsatisfying, because he told me that art was decided by an elite group of tastemakers. But when I thought about who these tastemakers were and who they considered artists and what they considered art, I kind of felt left out. I felt like art wasn't really for someone that looked or thought like me. And so it really wasn't for me at all. But I didn't really like the answer to his question, so I kept asking myself, what is art and who gets to decide it? Is it talent? Is it technique? Is it the story behind it all? Is it something else? Why is a urinal in a museum considered art? What about a child's drawing? Is that art? And the more that I've pondered this question over the years, the more I've come to my own loose interpretations of what art is. Because to me, art, or any creative expression, is broad and personal to the individual. It's about the creative process to that person, and that's all it really needs for it to be art. And if they decide to show it to the rest of us and share it with the world, then we all get to benefit a little bit from it. Now, I didn't always consider myself an artist, or really a creative person at all. No, I was the perfectionist, the good girl, the one that followed all of the rules and towed the line, and my job was to get onto the path of that good and happy, perfect life. You know what that life looks like, right? Like this, where you get good grades so you can go to a good college and get a good job and get a good house, and then meanwhile you're going to get the husband and the kids, and then all of a sudden your life is perfect and happy, and ta-da! And I tried really hard for that to happen through my youth and most of my 20s, mostly by working on a career and not much else. But I found myself sad and burnt out and unsatisfied with my life because I didn't really feel like I was living much of one really at all. But all around me, especially on social media, everyone else seemed to be happy and fulfilled in a way that I just wasn't. Instead, I was walking around with this brain fog. I was in this daze. I couldn't think because I felt like I was being pulled from one thing to the next. I didn't have hobbies because I felt like I had to put all of my energy and worth into a career that wasn't going anywhere. So I went home at night and I zoned out. Like watching hours of Netflix, you know you did it. Scrolling endlessly on social media and eating mindlessly too late at night. But I knew that I couldn't keep living my life like this. So I decided I needed to go to therapy. And through therapy, I learned that I needed to feel and process my emotions. I needed to face those things that I had been pushing down for way, way too long. But to do this, I had to stop zoning out of my life, and I needed to start leaning in and coping with it emotionally. Now, painting became one of those emotional coping mechanisms to me purely by chance when my husband took me out to a paint and sip one night on a date night. And I painted this picture of Lake Eola Starry Night. And from there, I fell in love with painting, and I was hooked. And I spent hours painting and experimenting and throwing color around on canvas. But what was more is that I was thinking about the world, and I was feeling things, and I was crying. And I was facing those things I had been pushing down for way, way too long. And because I didn't know anything about painting before I started, I did what I wanted to on the canvas. I mixed colors together that I didn't think would go. I broke rules simply because I could. I was learning to let go of being that perfect person. Because I learned that in life, just like painting, it's not perfect, but you can continue to add layers, and that will add depth and complexity as you go along. What gets covered up might not be seen anymore, but you can hide or hint or highlight your marks regardless. But what's underneath is always going to affect what's on the surface. And the more that I kept painting, I started sharing it with my friends, and they encouraged me to share it with more people, and then I started getting bold. And all of a sudden, I was meeting dreams I didn't even know I had, like having my museum in an art, speaking in front of a theater with all of you. And the more that I wanted to create, the more I wanted to find creations from other people, especially voices that were different and diverse than mine. But I learned through the art and the creativity that they wanted to put out into the world, the beauty and the pain and the spectrum of the human condition. And I started to feel less alone. And I started to accept myself. And I realized in all of the ways that I had felt wrong or not enough, I started to see my strengths. And I realized that in my quest to become a perfect person, I had been eliminating what was so uniquely special about myself. And that is my empathy, my creativity, and my ability to see the world differently. And now I know that my story isn't so different from the rest of us because we are experiencing burnout on massive levels. But we also live in a world where we are told to put our value and worth into careers that constantly demand us to be perfect and want us to eliminate what's so uniquely special about us. And that is the art and the creativity that we as human beings have the ability to make. We are able to create simply for the process and the journey of it all. And isn't that enough for it to be art? Art is supposed to connect us to ourselves and to each other on deeper levels. So let me tell you, as someone who is a recovering non-creative perfectionist, you too are creative simply because you're a human being. Now, I need a paint and a canvas to create, but your own blank canvas is out there waiting for you. Go find it, because art is inside of all of us waiting to come out. And it's up to each of you to decide what art is to you. Thank you.